Beowulf Part 24. Beowulf is double conqueror. Then he saw, mid the war gems, a weapon of victory, an ancient giant sword, of edges a doughty, glory of warriors, of weapons 'twas choicest. Only 'twas larger than any man else was able to bear to the battle encounter, the good and splendid work of the giants. He grasped then the sword hilt, knight of the Scyldings, bold and battle-grim, brandished his ring sword, hopeless of living, hotly he smote her, that the fiend woman's neck firmly it grappled, broke through her bone joints, the bill fully pierced her, fate-cursed body, she fell to the ground then. The hand sword was bloody, the hero exulted. The brand was brilliant, brightly it glimmered, just as from heaven gem-like shineth the torch of the firmament. He glanced long the building, and turned by the wall then. Hygelac's vassal, raging and wrathful, raised his battle sword strong by the handle. The edge was not useless to the hero in battle, but he speedily wished to give Grendel requital for the many assaults he had worked on the West Danes, not once, but often. When he slew in slumber the subjects of Hrothgar, swallowed down 15 sleeping retainers of the folk of the Danemen, and fully as many carried away, a horrible prey. He gave him requital, grim raging champion, when he saw in his rest place, weary of conflict, Grendel lying, of life's joys bereaved. So he sees the body of Grendel, who he had slain before, and cuts off his head. As the battle of Heorot erstwhile had scathed him, his body far bounded, a blow when he suffered, death having seized him, sword smitting heavy, and he cut off his head then. Early this noticed the clever carels, who, as comrades of Hrothgar, gazed on the sea deeps, that the surging wave currents were mightily mingled, the mere flood was gory. Of the good one, the hair grayed together held converse, the hoary of head, that they hoped not to see again. The atheling ever, that exulting in victory, so they don't think Beowulf's coming back. He'd return there to visit the distinguished folk ruler. Then many concluded the mere wolf had killed him. The 9th hour came then. From the nest edge departed the bold-mooded Scyldings. The gold friend of heroes homeward betook him. The strangers sat down then, soul-sick, sorrowful, the sea waves regarding. They wished, and yet weened not their well-loved friend-lord to see any more. The sword blade began then, the blood having touched it, contracting and shriveling with battle icicles. 'Twas wonderful marvel that it melted entirely, so the sword's just melting. Likest ice when the Father unbindeth the bond of the frost and unwieldeth the wave bands. He who wieldeth dominion of times and tides, a truth-firm creator. Nor took he of jewels more in the dwelling, lord of the wetters, than they lay all around him, than the head and the handle handsome with jewels. The brand so early melted, burnt was the weapon. So hot was the blood, the strange spirit poisonous that in it did perish. He early swam off then, who had bided in combat the carnage of haters, went up through the ocean, the eddies were cleansed, the spacious expanses, when the spirit from Barland his life put aside, and this short-lived existence. The seaman's defender came swimming to land then, doughty of spirit, rejoiced in his sea gift, the bulky burden which he bore in his keeping. The excellent vassals advanced them to meet him. To God they were grateful, were glad in their chieftain, that to see him safe and sound was granted then. From the high-minded hero, then, helmet and byrnie were speedily loosened. The ocean was putrid, the water 'neath the welkin weltered with gore. Forth did they fare, then, their footsteps retracing. Merry and mirthful, measured the earthway, the highway familiar, men very daring. Bare then the head from the sea cliff burdening each of the earlmen, excellent, valiant. 4 of them had to carry with labor the head of Grendel to the high towering gold hall. Upstruck on the spear, till 14 most valiant and brave battle great men came there going straight to the palace. The prince of the people measured the meadways, their mood brave companion. The atheling of earlmen entered the building. Deed valiant man, adorned with distinction, doughty shield warrior, to address King Hrothgar. Then, hung by the hair, the head of Grendel was borne to the building, where beer thanes were drinking, loth before earlmen, and eke for the lady. The warriors beheld then a wonderful sight. We're on part 25. Beowulf brings his trophies, Hrothgar's gratitude. Beowulf spake, offspring of Ethro. Lo, we blithely have brought thee, bairn of Healfdene, prince of the Scyldings, these presents from ocean, which thine eye looketh on, for an emblem of glory. I came off alive from this, narrowly escaping. In war 'neath the water the work with great pains I performed, and the fight had been finished quite nearly, had God not defended me. I failed in the battle aught to accomplish, aided by Hrunting. Though that weapon was worthy, but the wielder of earthfolk gave me willingly to see on the wall a heavy old hand sword hanging in splendor. He guided most often the lorn and the friendless. That I swung as a weapon. The wards of the house then I killed in the conflict, when occasion was given me. Then the battle sword burned, the brand that was lifted, as the blood current sprang, hottest of war sweats, seizing the hilt, from my foes I off bore it. I avenged as I ought to their acts of malignity, the murder of Danemen. I then make thee this promise, thou'lt be able in Heorot, careless to slumber, with thy throng of heroes, and the thanes of thy people, every and each, of greater and lesser. So he's saying they're all free from monsters. And thou needest not fear for them from self-same direction, as thou formerly fearedest, O folklord of the Scyldings, ende for earlmen. To the age-hoary man there, the gray-haired chieftain, the gold-fashioned sword hilt, old work of giants, was thereupon given, since the fall of the fiends, it fell to the keeping of the wielder of Danemen, the wonder-smith's labor, and the bad-mooded being abandoned this world then, opponent of God, victim of murder, and also his mother, it went to the keeping of the best of the world kings, where waters encircle, who the Scot divided in Scylding dominion. Hrothgar discoursed, the hilt he regarded, the ancient heirloom, where in old time contentions beginning was graven. The gurgling currents, the flood slew thereafter the race of the giants. They had proved themselves daring, that people was loth to the Lord everlasting, though lash of the billows. The Father gave them final requital, so in letters of rune on the clasp of the handle, gleaming and golden, 'twas graven exactly, set forth and said, whom that sword had been made for, finest of irons, who first it was wrought for, wreathed at its handle and gleaming with serpents. The wives one said, silent they all were, son of old Healfdene, so Hrothgar is talking now. He may say unrefuted who performs mid the folkmen fairness and truth. The hoary old ruler remembers the past. That better by birth is this baron of the nobles. Thy fame is extended through far-away countries, good friend Beowulf, o'er all the races thou holdest all firmly, like hero-like strength with the prudence of spirit. I'll prove myself grateful as before we agreed on. Thou granted for long shalt become a great comfort to kinsmen and comrades, a help unto heroes. Hermod became not such to the Scyldings, successors of Egwelda. He grew not to please them, but grievous destruction, and diresome death woes to Danemen attracted. He slew in anger his table companions, trustworthy counselors, till he turned off lonely, from world joys away, wide famous ruler, through high ruling heaven in hero strength raised him, in might exalted him, o'er men of all nations, made him supreme. Yet a murderous spirit grew in his bosom. He gave them no ring gems to the Danes after custom. Endured he unjoyful, standing the straits from strife that was raging, longsome folk sorrow. Learn then from this, lay hold of virtue. Through laden with winters I have sung thee these measures. 'Tis a marvel to tell it, how all-ruling God from greatness of spirit giveth wisdom to children of men, manor and earlship, all things he ruleth. He often permitteth the mood thought of man, of the illustrious lineage, to lean to possessions, allows him earthly delights at his manor. a high burg of heroes to hold him in his keeping, maketh portions of earth folk hear him, and a wide-reaching kingdom, so that, wisdom failing him, he himself is unable to reckon its boundaries. He liveth in luxury, little debars him, nor sickness, nor age, nor treachery, sorrow, becloudeth his spirit, conflict nowhere. No sword hate appeareth, but of all the world doth wield as he wisheth. The world he knoweth not, till errant arrogance, inward pervading, waxeth and springeth when the warder is sleeping. The guard of his soul, with sorrows encompassed, too sound is his slumber, the slayer is near him, who with bow and arrow aimeth in malice. And now we are on part 26. Hrothgar moralizes rest after labor. Then bruised in his bosom, he, with bitter-toothed missile, so he's still talking, is hurt neath his helmet from harmful pollution. He is powerless to shield him by the wonderful mandates of the loath-cursed spirit. What too long hath holden him seemeth too small. Savage he hoardeth, nor boastfully giveth gold-plated rings. The fate of the future flouts and forgetteth, since God erst given him greatness no little. Wielder of glory, his day end anear. It afterward happens that his bodily dwelling fleetingly fadeth, falls into ruins. Another lays hold who doleth the ornaments, the nobleman's jewels, nothing lamenting. Heedeth no terror, O Beowulf dear, best of the heroes. From Bale's strife defend thee, and choose thee the better, counsels eternal. Beware of arrogance, world-famous champion. But a little while lasts thy life vigor's fullness. 'Twill after hap early that illness or sword edge shall part thee from strength, or grasp of the fire, or the wave of the current, or the clutch of the edges, or flight of the war spear, or age with its horrors, or thine eyes bright flashing shall fade into darkness. 'Twill happen full early, excellent hero, that death shall subdue thee. So the Danes a half-century I held under heaven. So he's talking about his reign now, Hrothgar is. Helped them in struggles against many a race in Middle Earth's regions, with ashwood and edges, that enemies none on earth molested me. Lo, offsetting change now came to my manner, grief after joyance, when Grendel became my constant visitor, inveterate hater. I, from that malice, continuously traveled with trouble no little. Thanks be to God that I gained in my lifetime, to the Lord everlasting, to look on the gory head with mine eyes, after long-lasting sorrow. Go to the bench now, battle adorned, joy in the feasting, of jewels in common, will meet with many when morning appeareth. The Geatman was gladsome, ganged he immediately to go to the bench, as the clever one bade him. Then again, as before, were the famous for prowess, hall inhibitors, handsomely banqueted, feasted anew. The night veil fell then, dark o'er the warriors. The courtiers rose then, the grey-haired was anxious to go to his slumbers, the hoary old skiding. Hankered the Geatman, the champion doubtfully, greatly, to rest him. And earlmen early outward did lead him, fagged from his firing, far county springing, who, for etiquette's sake, all of a liegeman's needs regarded, such as seamen at the time were bound to feel. The big-hearted rested, the building-up towed, spacious and gilded. The guest within slumbered, till the sable-clad raven blithely foreboded the beacon of heaven. Then the bright shining sun o'er the bottoms came going. The warriors hastened, the heads of the peoples were ready to go again to their peoples. The high-mooded farer would far away thenceward look for his vessel. So the Geats are preparing to leave Daneland. The valiant one bade then, offspring of Ecglaf, off to bear Hrunting, to take his weapon, his well-beloved iron. He thanked for the gift, saying good he accounted, the war friendly and mighty, nor chid he with words then, the blade of the brand. 'Twas a brave-mooded hero. When the warriors were ready, arranged in their trappings, the atheling dear to the Danemen advanced then, on to the dais, where the other was sitting, grim-mooded hero, greeted King Hrothgar.